If there's one thing you could pin down and say, if we don't do anything else right, we have to get this one thing right, what would that one thing be? Today we're going to discuss the power of a pre-service and post-service huddle. Why do we believe the huddle is such a game changer? You're about to find out. Let's do this. Welcome to the Small Town Big Church Leadership Podcast, a place for pastors, church leaders, and volunteers to grow themselves and the local church. We're pastors Brad and Misti Helton, church planters in rural America. Growing up, I always loved sports. Not because I was good at sports. Actually, it's the opposite. Paul had a thorn in his flesh. I have a thorn in my flesh too. It's the fact that God made me fiercely competitive with a very low degree of athletic ability. It's frustrating. It's embarrassing, to say the least. But Misti, on the other hand, was an incredible athlete. And thank God I married her and changed the whole athletic dynamic of our Helton heritage. She was an All-American in college and quite the salty little volleyball player. She even held her own in basketball for a time, even did some coaching along the way. So Misti, as an athlete, I have a question. What power is there in a team huddle? Can you imagine the impact it would have on your team if you never huddled?
Oh my gosh. Well, as an athlete, team huddles were always a very big part of our culture. Pre-game huddles were all about inspiring us to give our best and to come out on top, hopefully with the win, right? While post-huddles after the game were to celebrate what we had got right, but then to point out and work on what we needed to make better the next time. Because the idea behind it is that you're always working to get better all throughout your season.
Right.
So, the church world was really no different. The only difference is this isn't a game. I mean, people's eternities are really on the line here. So we have to win. People's lives are literally hanging in the balance every time we show up. People will make a decision between heaven and hell. They could change their eternal address based on the way that we do church. So we can't afford to lose. So if team huddles are proportionate to our success as pastors, as team leads, as volunteers, then we have to get it right.
Yep.
We have to execute team huddles effectively every single time we're together.
Yes, we do. So let's talk for just a minute about the mission of a healthy huddle. And that's really, in essence, to make the team better every time we're together.
Right.
To make the team better every single time we're together. And the last video that we did, the last podcast, was get 1% better every week. And I encourage you to go back and check that out, because this is what we're talking about. Every time we get together, we're trying to make the team better and better and better each and every week. Okay, so let's talk now for a second about the purpose of a huddle. Healthy, growing leaders believe the vision.
Yes,
all right?
they do.
They not only understand the what and the how of how something is done, but more importantly, they understand the why.
Right.
So if you are the one leading a huddle, you have to communicate the why to those you lead with the same passion that it was given to you. So you must own the vision and bleed it to others, those that you train and those who serve on your teams. You got to get this right.
There are 4 guidelines that we have laid out very easily so that we can remember them when it comes to leading a good huddle. And the first one is this: be a coach, not a cheerleader. All right?
Now, there's nothing wrong with cheerleaders.
No.
It's just that cheerleaders aren't going to cause the team to win.
Exactly.
They're just going to feel really good getting there.
Exactly. I want you to think about it, okay? What does a coach do? A coach inspects, a coach directs, a coach corrects, right? Sometimes we need to make it better. And to be honest, a great coach is going to look at a team and say, even when we're giving like 95%, there is always room for better. None of us are executing anything we do at 100% every single time.
That's right.
And so as a coach with a church team, we want to be looking at and constantly inspecting what is our team doing according to the guidelines that were written for that team, and then always be looking to make it better.
Right. The second thing you want to do as a team lead when you're leading these huddles is you want to celebrate the things that are going right. And as leaders, at least for me, it's, I have to be very intentional and very cognizant to draw out those things that are going well, because just by nature, it's way easier for me to identify the things that are going wrong.
Yeah.
And so I have to constantly remind myself, hey, before you ever, and this is what I challenge myself with as a leader, before you ever, come out with something that can be improved upon, why don't you just identify one thing that they did well and start with that? And because it's encouraging. There's always going to be discouraging things that we can share, things that we really need to improve on within ourselves, but we got to keep it encouraging. So we always celebrate the things that are going right.
We are looking at life change. We're looking at growth. Those are the stories we want to celebrate, as well as the written win. So, every team within our organization has a written win. Mm-hmm. So that is what is most important. So when we get back in a huddle, we want to be saying, guys, last week, this is how we won, right? And then we'll talk a little bit more about, how we improve on those things. But you always want to start by lifting their spirits, celebrating what is going right.
Yeah, definitely having a culture of celebration is crucial. People will want to continually serve. They'll want to even work harder to do what they've been doing as they've been killing it. So the next thing that we want to make sure that we do in these huddles as leaders is
speak confidently and stay on track.
That's hard for me.
I know.
That is so hard.
I'm glad you brought it up.
That is hard for me. So I have to be very intentional by staying on track, because I am a little bit of a squirrel from time to time.
And I think this is like a good time to bring it up because everybody's personalities are different, right? So some people naturally are going to be very type A personality, like myself, and I'm very much like, we need to get this, and this done. We need to execute it well. Other people are going to be on the more relational side of just like, hey, and that's great. Yeah. And there's a place for it.
There is.
But you can also easily
save the creative comedian for when the huddle is over.
Right.
Because we only have 5 minutes.
Yes. So you don't want to
You need to have something to say and not just be just rambling.
Exactly.
You need to have something to say and speak confidently when you do.
And that is why it's really important to be prepared.
Very organized.
A lot of times we think, oh, it's just a 5-minute huddle.
Yeah, I'll just wing it.
And that is like a bad word around here.
It's like a cuss word.
It is like a cuss word. We don't just wing it.
Wing it.
Even if your outline is on your phone and it's simply 3 bullet points, and we'll go over in a second what a huddle outline should look like.
And your team can smell it when you're unprepared.
Yes.
And they lose respect for you.
And you'll stutter around, and here's what will happen. People will think it's not that big of a deal if I don't show up for this huddle.
Yeah. You were talking about type A personalities. If you have those individuals on your team, they're going to have a lot more respect for you and respect for the huddle in general.
Right.
When you stay on track and when you stay on time. And part of staying on track is starting on time and ending on time.
And that is number 4.
Yeah.
Very important. So whatever time you have set, that time needs to, for the most part, I mean, I know that there are times on a Sunday morning,
there's a lot of moving parts. Sometimes
something might happen,
bleeds over.
And you might be off by a minute or two, but you've got to try really, really hard to start on time and end on time, because in the church realm, I mean, our doors are going to open.
People need to be in their positions when families start arriving.
Exactly. Yeah. Now we're going to talk about what the huddle outline should look like, okay? And so, as we mentioned before, we want to celebrate what is going right. So we always want to start our huddle with celebrating a win. And depending on the time that you have, like if you've got a 5-minute huddle, you've only got enough time to celebrate maybe 1 or 2 things, and then you got to move on. Right. The next thing you're going to do is you are going to review something off of your guideline training sheet, or you're going to review a value that is a part of your organization. So this basically becomes a strategic moment that you can make some little tweaks, okay? I've heard it said before, like small tweaks take you to higher peaks, okay? So every week you can be looking at, where do we need to get better? So without bringing down massive correction, if I notice one Sunday that we didn't execute something as well as we would have liked to, then in the next huddle, I'm going to work that in.
You're not
bringing the hammer down.
You're not bringing the hammer down with your volunteers.
No.
You are in a positive and encouraging way, bringing subtle, consistent reminders, just continually drilling it down. This is who we are. This is how we operate.
Yes. So the next thing, after we have then reviewed either a guideline or a value, then we want to take that next moment to just update any necessary information for that day.
Yeah.
Okay? So if there's something going on, so for instance, for us, we're under construction. Every week, there is probably something necessary that we inform everybody, hey, that sidewalk is gone,
Right.
Or this door is going to be the door we need to use today. Whatever that information is, that's where it needs to go so that you're communicating with everybody in one shot, all right? And then the next thing, and this doesn't pertain to every team, but there are going to be some teams that are going to need to go over the service outline because you're a part of the service team. So if you're a part of anyone in the sanctuary, maybe you are on the stage, worship team, broadcast, AV team, if you are in momentum, those guys, you're going to need to run over the service outline and make sure everybody is on the same page.
What's momentum?
Momentum for us is our 1st to 5th grade, and they have more of a service, just like the adults in the sanctuary.
Right.
They're on a stage.
Yeah.
Of course, they're doing dramas. So outline is very important because we want services to flow very smooth.
Right.
Okay, and then at that point, we're going to pray, and this is not the time that we're going to take prayer requests. Nope, not in a pre-service huddle.
Not that we don't care, but that's not
why we're there. Okay. So at that moment, we're just going to pray, and we're praying very specifically over what we are about to do. Okay? And at that point, when you say amen, it's go time.
So whatever your role is at your church, if you want to win at leading more people to Jesus, you need to understand the power of a pre-service and a post-service huddle. If you're the lead pastor or a campus pastor, you need to inspect what you expect and make sure that each team each team lead is leading huddles effectively so that your entire campus or your organization is firing on all volunteer cylinders.
Yes.
If you're a team lead, it's imperative that you lead effective huddles that include the things we've shared with you today so your team will kill it continually in the areas they serve. And then finally, if you're a volunteer in the local church, your job is of the utmost importance because you are in the trenches. You're on the front lines serving the incredible families that need hope. You are ultimately the one who carries the vision God has given your pastors to the front lines. Your team lead can't do it for you. Your pastors, they can't do it for you. It's all up to you to know what you're doing, to know why you're doing it, and how to do it better each and every time.
Well, thanks for joining us today. We hope that this has blessed you. We'll see you next time.